Hey, sports fans, Greg Medford from Medford Knife here. You know, I had a weird, I don't know, I had a kind of weird, wasn't a realization, but I had a rubber meets the road moment today. And it's just one of those boulders that you try to explain to people. And, it's not the kind of thing people want to hear all the time, but it feels like it warrants addressing every now and then. People have asked, hey, why can't you make a more affordable American-made knife? And people say, oh, it's this or it's that, and they give lots of reasons. I want to give you an example of what just some cost things are, okay? For me to cut out a Praetorian, I get about one blade per pound of steel that I buy. So for those of you who don't know, Praetorians are like a big heavy pocket knife that I make. So it's got about a pound of steel. Now, does a pound of steel go in the blade? No, but the area that, you have, let's say you have a sheet and you cut a certain amount of pieces out of it. You take all the pieces and you weigh what's left. Let's say you get 50 pieces out of the sheet and what's left is 25 pounds. That means every piece that you got out of it has a half a pound to drop. Well, you paid $25 a pound for that steel, so that knife has to carry the load of that drop in its costing when you make it, when you figure out what it costs you to make a knife. Because I don't just buy the steel that's in the blade, I buy the whole sheet and all the steel that doesn't get used because you can't fit all the little cookies perfectly cut out of a sheet of material, right? So we've kind of had a very weird thing happen in the last 6 months in the knife world. There is literally one company in the United States, in the entire country, there's one company that does powdered stainless steel. For those of you who don't know, it's a process by which they make, they powder the ingredients that go into a certain metallurgical recipe for steel. Then they take those powdered ingredients by weight, by volume, and they mix them up until it's homogeneous, and then they put them in a crucible and they seal them off away from oxygen so that there can be no inclusions and no oxidization during the sintering or melting process. And that's how they make an ingot of powdered metal. And this is where you get these really fine grain structures, super high-end, amazing property knife steels. There's one company in the United States that did that. It was Crucible Metals up in upstate New York, and they went out of business. And Eris Steel bought them out of, I don't know, I think they're out of Sweden, or I think they're Sweden. And so there's now no one in the United States that makes the powder material to make powdered stainless steel. Now, while that's going on, the United States, we've been kind of getting ripped off for a long time. So there are a bunch of forces at play, and there's a bunch of news involved and a bunch of hyperbole from Wall Street and the media, because they like everything predictable, and they don't like anybody messing with their 3-card Monte. And the 3-card Monte table has been flipped over by the Trump administration. So there's a bunch of forces at play, but I'm going to tell you about this one part of it on steel and how it affects the cost of American-made knives. And when someone says to me, why can't you just make an inexpensive American-made knife? I can answer that question. I can answer that question probably better than all but maybe 3 guys in the entire country. And then I would say they can answer it about as well as I can. So in the middle of all of this, as we try to bring our knives around the world, we get these crazy taxes charged on us, which makes us uncompetitive everywhere we go. So there are people in Europe and Eastern Europe and Asia who want American-made stuff, and they believe in American excellence, and they like brands, and they like our designs, and they like our creative leadership, and they want in on it. And you go to sell it, and it's, at the bare minimum, it's 25% higher everywhere you go. And many places it's 50 or 100%. There's no great They're just blocking us from the marketplace. Now, in the middle of all of this back and forth, where Trump has seen this and listened to thousands of business owners like myself saying, hey, hey, Greg, how come you don't export more stuff to Europe? Like, I literally have, there's an Arizona export branch of our state government that likes to encourage trade surpluses. They want us to export, and they do things to try and incentivize us exporting. And so there's big upside to building a trade surplus and exporting. And what happens is we get VAT taxed by the Europeans. They put VAT tax on our products coming into the country, and it kind of blocks us off from the market. So I encounter this kind of everywhere I go. So when the Trump administration asked me, hey, Greg, what would help your business? And I would say, knock down all the trade barriers so that I can do business with the planet, because they've got us completely cock-blocked. The other thing is protect our intellectual property. Stop letting pirated goods into the United States of our intellectual property. So the Trump administration, unbelievably, has listened to me and a few other people, like, I don't know, a million, say, my stuff's getting ripped off. I can't do business there. They are taking it, they've taken advantage and flooded the market with my intellectual property. I've got nobody I can go after. There's nothing I can do. There's no protection. And who still promulgates it? Amazon, eBay, Alibaba. These companies are soulless, globalist fucks. And they don't care, and it doesn't matter how much government paperwork they just, it's whack-a-mole. Every time I knock down a pirated copy reseller, they put another one up. So, not to go off on too far of a tangent, but our biggest concern for small businesses are intellectual property and access to markets. Because, at some point you're like, okay, well, I've kind of done what I can do in the United States, or with my current business model and my level of marketing that I do, I get this certain layer of the market in the United States. And I'd like to get a layer in Europe, and I'd like to get a layer in... I just stopped going to Europe because they basically taxed me out of relevance. And I won't even go to Asia. I don't want to even deal with it. I have dealers in Asia who tell me what they pay, and I'm astounded. So I see the president going after it. Now, he's trying to protect the steel industry. And this has been a lot of news in the last week or two. And it matters to folks in U.S. Steel. And everybody else just kind of shrugs. But I'm seeing firsthand that if you lose a technology, it's very, very hard to get it back. And what happens if we lose steel technology? I mean, literally, what happens if we lose our steel smelters, our steel plants, our steel facilities? You can't just turn those on. It's not a switch. There's a lot of tribal talent. So we've just lost the only powdered stainless steel maker in the United States. And what that means is all knife steel that's of the powdered stainless variety now has to come from Japan, Asia, or Europe. And the taxes just went up to 50%. Now, the steel I was already buying was between $25 and $30 a pound. A pound for a S45 yen powdered stainless steel. Now, that's going to be a 50% surcharge coming out of Sweden. There's going to be a 50% tax for it coming into the United States. So, remember back to my original conversation, that one blade for a Praetorian, I get X amount out of a sheet. I take how much that sheet costs me, and I divide it by how many I can get out of it. So you get a yield, and you get a drop, and you get a number, and you get a cost per unit. So my cost per unit was about $25 a blade. That's just for the cost of the steel. And it just went up 50%. Now, I don't know if they're going to pass the 50% all the way to me. I don't know. I have a feeling they're not going to do it yet, but that they're going to work it in over time. So if it costs $25, add $12.50 to that, $37.50. And you might go, well, what's $37.50, Greg? What's $37.50? You sell $500 pocket knives. What's $37.50? Well, I'm gonna pull my pants down and tell you guys some general rules of thumb in manufacturing so you understand what this does. People will say, well, material is just a small fraction of what goes into making a knife. Labor is what's expensive. Labor is expensive, but processes are what's expensive. So by the time I buy that sheet of steel for $25 to $30 a pound, and it shows up here, or say $23 to $30 a pound, and it shows up here in Arizona, made in upstate New York, I'm at 28 or 29 if it was 25 or 23, or I'm at 32 per pound. So let's just call it fair and even at 30. And I haven't cut it out yet. I cut it out with a water jet, costs about $8 to do. We're now at 38, and all we've done is taken a piece of raw hot rolled steel, hot rolled milled steel, and we've just cut it out the general shape. We're at 38. To precision flat grind it costs about somewhere between $5 and $10. So on the first one, we'll say 5. We're at 43. Now, it's going to go through machining. There's about 15 minutes on a blade. It's $1 a minute. So 43 plus 15, that's 58. You're at 58. Now you've got to heat treat it. The metal bag alone costs around $4. We're at 52. We're at 52. It's about 50 cents for electricity. So we'll just leave it at 52. It hasn't been ground into a blade yet, and after heat treat, it has to get its second precision qualifying grind in my shop, which costs about $10. We're at 62. We haven't ground it into a blade yet. Now, the best deal in America to grind a good blade is about $10. To do a combo flat hollow grind's about 15. You see where I'm going? It's $15 plus that, what did we say? 62? So 72 plus 5, $77. It's $77 just to make the motherfucking blade. Now you got to make a handle out of titanium and another side out of titanium, or an aluminum chassis or whatever. That's $77 for the blade. Now, for those of you who buy knives made in China, the model for many years has been we want to make a 700% markup on whatever it is we pay. I know this because SOG knives and numerous other brands that you all know that have most of their production made in Asia have asked me to quote knife projects for them. And I've made knives for some of them, and most of them I haven't. Because they say, hey, Greg, we love your stuff. We love your zeitgeist, your politics, we dig. Although, we're not going to public endorse it. We will never block you. But can you make us a knife for this price? And this is where I find out most companies don't have a knife maker in the bunch. Because to make a blade costs about $77. And they want the done knife for somewhere between $12 and $18. And they want to sell that, say 12 times 7, 70, and 14, $84. You buy an $84 knife, somebody paid $12 for it. Now, people will say, oh, the prices have really gone up, Greg, in China, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's say they've doubled and they're now $24. It's a done knife, packaged, assembled, and sharpened in the box for $24. It costs $70 to make a blade in the United States if you use good powdered steel. Now, I've done some, when I go to 1095 Crovan, I can make some really nice knives for around $200. Not folders, fixed blades. Folders somewhere around 240, between 220 and $250. I can make a really nice American knife. But not with lots of complex parts, not with carbon fiber, not with hand this and titanium that, and just, a really, really good quality American basic knife. I can retail it for around $220. Now, let's go back to the pricing thing for a minute. And so this is where American pricing comes in, okay? It is a general rule of thumb in manufacturing. It's 3 times your cost is your lowest wholesale price. 3 times your cost is your lowest wholesale price. That's a general rule of thumb. So if it costs you $50 to make something, $150 would be your best price to, say, a distributor at half off. And then they're going to step on at 16 to 18%. Then it's going to go to a retailer who likes to keystone or double their money. That's the model on which rent, hourly wages, the cost of money tied up in a distributorship to have your inventory and all of those things. So, when you see a $500 knife that I sell on the open market, and this is the same for everybody, anybody who tell you any different, I'm just telling you guys the behind the scenes kind of reality. In order for a knife to be profitable and worth carrying in a store, they have to make somewhere between 70% and 100% return on their money. So that's between 35 points and 100% markup. Okay? They've got to double their money. Keystone is like the ideal in retail. And that's what pays for the employees, the electricity, the building, the space to build out, and the inventory. Two-step distribution is built on this. This is the way it is. And companies like Walmart and Costco have become wildly profitable because they cut out the American-made distributor, the American-made manufacturer, and the American worker. And they bought this stuff at 15 cents on the dollar from China. And then they charge you this, a comparable price. It's just like, I guess, a drug dealer. The first joint's free, they kind of entice you and then they get you in and then they kind of work the price up. And next thing you know, that industry's gone in America. You're paying full price. You're getting subpar quality usually. But what you're not getting is you're not getting your purchase, your voting morals, your neighborhood, your countrymen, and everyone. We're not all bound together by the same morals. I vote this way, but I buy this way. I vote this way for all these sick, virtuous things that I want in my culture, but I don't want to pay for it, so I want to cheat. So I buy it from Walmart, or I buy it from Costco, or I buy it from Amazon. So to kind of put a bow on it and tie it all up, to give you an idea, if it costs $50 to make a knife here in the United States, it will sell for about $150 to a distributor, and it'll sell on the retail market for about $300. A $50 cost translates to $300 in retail. Now that's the same for all your stuff. That's not Greg's equation. I'm tied into the economy and the market the way it's kind of set up. I'll say it again. Whatever your cost to make a knife, the lowest price you can sell it for is about 3 times that number, because there's a loaded and an unloaded cost to making a knife. So when you make a knife, there's a material, labor, and machine cost. That's the unloaded cost. The loaded cost is sales, office, customer service and support, infrastructure, building, electricity, air conditioning, insurance, workman's comp, paid holidays, time and a half overtime. That's all of the items that load up the cost. So the fully loaded cost is a staggering number. But if you take your basic unloaded cost and you multiply that times 3, that's about your distributor cost. Distributor cost is about half of the retail cost. And when I say retail, I mean the actual real number stuff goes for on the retail market, not the fuckery, MSRP, and all the different price point bullshits that people do. The actual price. So if a knife sells on the open market for $300, distributors get it for about $1.50, and manufacturers, it costs them about $50 to make it. Somewhere between, say, 39 and 55, somewhere in that range. It's just real economics. So a guy said, Greg, can't you make can't you make these titanium knives cheaper? And the answer is, let's take a $50 knife and let's add $10 to its costs. Now $60. 3 times that's 180, and 180 times 2 is 360. That $10 adds $60 at the end. Remember, my $50 sold for $300, $60 sells for $360. Add $10, and that's the way it works out. So if it costs $140 to make a really high-end knife where you control every step of the process, and it's got titanium hardware and titanium sides and a milled titanium clip on a modern machine that can hold tolerances with high-quality carbide tooling and a well-compensated employee, if it costs you $130, was 3 times 130, it's 300 plus 90, it's 390. That goes to your distributor. Their cost is 390. And so it's 600 plus 180, 780 is the retail price. That's the real number. And it's not Greg's made up, it's not being greedy. It's called, these are some rules of thumb in durable hard goods manufacturing that have been proven out over about 100 years. It is the way you keep your lights on. It's not how I don't live in an ostentatious house. I don't have a yacht. I don't travel first class unless I earn it with miles. Like a normal kind of middle upper class lifestyle. That's it. Until I were to scale in some bigger industry, right? But for the knife industry, that's what you get. So there's just a little kind of economics reality. And so to make a knife, I sell some pocket knives where I retail them at $220. It means I've got the cost at around $38. That's 2 G10 sides, and it's wire EDM and no machining required, and simple rack stainless hardware, and S45 VN blade. And my S45 VN blade has just gone up by $10. $10 on my $220 knife. So now 36 is 46. Okay? 46 times 3. So that would be 150 minus 12, 140, 136. That turns it into $272 retail knife because of a $10 change in steel. You see, that's how it works. Because there are people along the way who tie up their family or their company or their investors' money to play in business, and they need to make a profit, and that's how two-step distribution works. Now, listening to what I've just said, you can take your favorite knife maker and interpolate backwards what it costs to make a knife. It's not that hard. I'm huge on disclosure. I'm huge on telling the truth. And I'm huge on calling bullshit on so many things. And when people don't understand just the retail model of distribution in the United States, they just don't get it. There are some companies who cut out the people in the middle and they just sell direct. So they keep all the profit. And they sell for a lesser price. They think they're doing a better job for the customer, but they're usually not, because one location that sells direct only is usually not able to serve everybody individually very well. Your network of dealers who know you and represent your company, they're part of your message, they're part of your family, they're part of your value as a company. I think it's a little short-sighted, the companies that do that. All right, well, the light's disappearing as it fades out here on this Wednesday night on my patio. I wanted to talk about this. I hope you understand, or at least I hope that sheds some light on some understanding of pricing and costing and value and why things are the way they are. And there's just no way to magically there's no way to magically make stuff for half the price or a quarter of the price. Not when steel's going up exponentially and labor is up exponentially and insurance is up exponentially. Your cost of eggs and everything's gone up. Your car insurance has gone crazy. Your health insurance has gone crazy. So is mine for every employee. So is mine for every machine. So is mine for everything. Every consumable thing I buy has doubled in price in the last 5 years. And it's doubled in price, and I haven't doubled my prices. So that gives you an idea kind of what's happened. We're in the middle of a weird squeeze. So I got my fingers crossed for third quarter. I'm sure it's going to work out well. We're going to keep busting our ass. You guys go check out, I think by Saturday we'll have our new website Skin up, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Cody has done an amazing job. He's had some help from various people, and cool things going on. Meant for Knife, come check us out. Check us out over at 1881 Knife Works as well. We've got a lot of fun things happening. I'm out.